Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Who is Postman Pat? Postman Pat is a British stop-motion animated television series about the adventures of a postman called Pat, who delivers parcels and letters to his local community with his cat Jess. I grew up with the first 2 seasons of Postman Pat, which were directed by renowned animator Ivor Wood, who also directed such British stop-motion cartoons as The Wombles, Paddington Bear and The Herbs. I always remember feeling relaxed by Wood's episodes because he managed to create a laid-back and quaint tone. Once I got older though, I grew out of Postman Pat, so I've not kept up with new episodes, but the show still has a strong fan base. And in 2014, Pat got his own movie! From the director of Hoodwink 2. In Postman Pat the movie, Pat is expecting a raise to help him afford a honeymoon to Italy with his wife. However, a shady fellow called Carbuncle has convinced management to take away raises from employees to save money. To make matters worse, Carbuncle plots to replace employees with robots. In order to afford the honeymoon, Pat enters a talent contest for a television show and ends up winning after performing his wedding song for the judges. Pat becomes a superstar as he goes head to head with contestant Josh. Carbuncle exploits Pat's fame by basing his robot's design on him to give them a more appealing look. While Pat gets swept up by the fame, Carbuncle uses his robots as a temporary replacement for Pat's services. But really, he has evil plans. How will Pat handle fame? Will Carbuncle's robots rule the world? And how stupid does this movie sound already? Now, when a studio tries to adapt a series into a movie, I'm fully prepared for changes, because the franchise is making a transition from one medium to another, as long as these changes are good. Which is not the case for Postman Pat the movie. No, it does more than alter the style, tone and appeal of the TV show. It takes a beloved British icon, drags him through the dirt, and pisses on him while forcing him to sing terrible pop songs. This movie insultingly panders to the audience. It seems to care less about making a timeless story and more about trying to be hip and current, going as far as making the narrative centre on a reality TV contest, something that was very popular in 2014, while downplaying the postman aspect of the film. This makes the film seem way too desperate to be relevant and appealing to the kids of today. The film is also awfully written. It has characters blatantly announcing their motives, it shoves exposition down audiences' throats, its message about putting loved ones before technology and fame is obnoxiously preachy, to the point where Pat stands in a spotlight to address it to the audience. Plus, holy moly does it have way too many plots. There's far too much going on in this movie. Pat needs to afford his honeymoon to Italy, Pat is getting swept up in the fame, Pat isn't taking time to spend with his family, Josh's talent agent wants to kill Pat to knock off competition, people are losing their jobs, Mr. Carbuncle wants to take over the world using his robots, Mr. Carbuncle wants to use Pat to make his robots appealing, the robots are causing mayhem in Pat's community of Greendale, and everyone is annoyed at Pat, under the assumption that the robots are really Pat. Whew. See what I mean? There's so much going on, and because the film is committed to so many things, it becomes exhausting to watch, and it loses its central point and focus. It also doesn't help that this movie is heavily cliched and unoriginal. All the way through the film, I kept thinking to myself, I swear I've seen this movie before. It really reminds me of terrible 90s movies based on cartoons, like the Flintstones and the Jetsons movie, both of which are about the main characters being forced into successful careers. You know a movie is lazy and dated when it feels too similar to other cartoon spin-offs from 2 decades ago. So what about the comedy? Well, this movie has a distinct British sense of humour, going for very dry jokes. 2 or 3 jokes made me laugh, but most of the time I was just cringing as the movie desperately tried to be hilarious. I can totally imagine some people finding some parts to be funny, especially kids, but personally, most of the gags didn't work for me. I'm going to give 1 point to the content. Pat is a friendly guy, but as the film goes on, he comes across as kind of unlikable. He hides the truth from his family just because a dodgy robot inventor advised him to do so, and he never discusses important things with his wife, only so the film can ham-fist its message about not putting things before loved ones. I also find it very hard to believe that Pat has been an amazing singer all along, considering that we never see him taking an interest in singing or practicing singing before the audition. It's like the talent was dragged out of his arse for plot convenience. Maybe one of the new episodes of Postman Pat explores Pat's singing talent, I don't know. But a film shouldn't require you to watch something else beforehand in order to be sucked into a film's narrative. That's not how a movie experience works. It has to function as a whole sitting. Jess the cat is cute and helpful, but not exactly a noticeable character. He didn't keep my attention because he mainly just goofs about at the side of Pat as he begs the audience to find him funny and adorable. I also didn't like that he encouraged Pat to hide the truth from his wife. That's kind of a dick move. Half the time I forgot that he was even in the film. This is really saying something considering how much screen time he gets. Pat's wife Sarah seems nice, but the fact that she lets Mr. Carbuncle guilt trip into letting Pat put fame before family is very far-fetched. If she truly loved Pat, she would have spoken to Pat face to face about the situation and not let a shady guy she's just met dictate her marital decisions. Pat's son Julian is just a typical kid character, a happy-go-lucky boy who likes football. There's nothing really remarkable or interesting about him. Moving on. Mr. Carbuncle is a generic bad guy who announces his evil plans out loud, as if the audience is too stupid to catch on to his schemes. Plus, it baffles me that his Pat bots manage to trick people into thinking that they're the real Pat, when they're less than discreet about their intentions, walk like they've just shit their pants, have creepy smiles and glowing eyes. Not to mention, Jessbot clearly looks like a cross between the Terminator and the Cheshire Cat. These aren't exactly subtle hints, guys. These are alarm bells ringing so loud that even deaf aliens living on a planet billions of light years away would be able to register them. This makes Pat's friends and family look insanely stupid for not realizing that these are evil robots. No one would be this dumb, and if they really knew Pat, they would have instinctively started to raise concern, not immediately jump to conclusion. The CEO of Pat's company is an idiot. Sure, his man-child antics are initially amusing, but he's an absolute cockwaffle because he's stupid enough to let this obvious villain charm his way into his company, to the point where he can start calling shots. Josh is humble and cheery, but the fact that he's always on his games console when with social company or on stage makes him seem very rude. It's obvious that he's only always on it to draw attention to the film's message about technology. Josh's agent is really annoying and very unfunny. He's constantly yapping on and on and on, whining and whining. There's nothing fun or entertaining about him. Yes, he's meant to be a pain, but an annoying character shouldn't annoy the audiences to a point where they hate his screen presence. I'm going to give 0 points to the characters.